when Ross joins us, we'll go ahead and throw him in the mix, and then we have another guest up right around 8:45. So we are on record. We're live. If anybody has any background noise, please go ahead and mute out. And phones ringing, dogs barking, all that stuff, it picks up on the recording, so it's just best if you mute out. I mean, even when you whisper, we pick it up. So go ahead and hit *6 if you don't think you're going to talk or you're going to have some background noise. But Brad and Dave, just know I'm going to bring you up here in just a moment. Wow, I can't believe it. It's Thursday, December 19th. We're already at the end of the year. This is our last call for this year, and we're going to start back up I put it in the email, so hope everybody checked it out. Not the 2nd, because I'll be traveling, but Thursday, January 9th, we'll be back in full swing. Man, I've got such a lineup for this next year. It's going to be incredible, lots of great stuff. You guys will not want to miss these calls. The Title 42 course got a little bit of a late start on it, but I should be finishing that up over the holiday and ready to launch that just after the first of the year. If anybody wants to follow us on Twitter, we don't do a whole lot on there, but what we do is pretty significant. It's twitter.com/42action. Doesn't hurt to get signed up because when we do send something, it's pretty important. Facebook.com/42action. We actually do put some pretty fun stuff up in there. A lot of people send me case law and various stories. We post those up on there. They're pretty interesting most of the time, or they don't make it up. And the case law and various cases around the country, we post them just in case it's something similar to yours, especially if there is any sort of victory. If you're looking for a Title 42, Title 18 attorney, there's a good one in Des Moines, Iowa. Reach out to us. He doesn't do a lot of traveling unless he's in-state, and he will take a look at your case and see if it's something that he's interested in picking up. He was like me. He ran for state senate and then ended his campaign by choice. He probably had a winnable campaign, as did I. I think that my campaign would have won by about 3,000 votes. It could have been tight, you know, because when the crooked ones go behind the scenes and they all of a sudden pull out some ballots that didn't exist before, or they focus on those absentee ballots and count them behind the scenes, you never know which way a race is going to go. So due to figuring out that the government is indeed a corporation, I ended my campaign because I decided I wasn't going to be a part of that. I wasn't somebody who was going to be bought and paid for. I was in plenty of meetings where I experienced exactly which way I was expected to vote. You know, I have my own mind, and I could have done what I wanted, but believe me, if you weren't on the governor's agenda, you weren't going to be his favorite. So if you're interested in that Title 42, Title 18 attorney, he is very good friend of mine. And, in fact, hopefully this week we're going to be doing an interview, and that will be thrown into the course as well. Let's see, what else? Let's see, Brad, if you're available to talk, can you give us a brief update on what's going on with the dinar?
Sure. I can do the best I can on that. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. Yeah, the latest news on the dinar that's coming in, this is kind of a condensation and a consensus, various intel guru sites out there. But what the gist of what happened this week is that the two main actors in the dinar world, at least from a U.S. perspective, is the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, that's headed by Christine Lagarde, and in the U.S. is the U.S. Treasury, headed by Jack Lew. And it was those two agencies, those two three-letter agencies, that were kind of driving that from a U.S. perspective. Well, the IMF was driving it from a worldwide, global perspective, and here domestically it was the U.S. Treasury. And we had kept hearing that, okay, it's any day, any time, any moment right now. And what came out earlier this week, that there were a couple players in the U.S. Treasury that were excuse me, I had a little Russian, that were kind of slowing this down, and it was unclear who was doing it, but there was a quagmire, a roadblock, a road jam at the U.S. Treasury. So Christine Lagarde at the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, got tired of waiting on the U.S. Treasury because word we got, they were always asking for a 24-hour delay or a 48-hour delay. Long story short, she got tired of waiting for the U.S. Treasury and hit the go button from an international perspective. So the Iraqi dinar, we're hearing, has gone live in at least 7 countries and soon to be rolled out on a global basis at a stated rate of $3.44 up to $3.85, somewhere in that range. So if you bought $1 million dinar for 1,000, supposedly that's now worth anywhere from 3.4 to 3.8 million. But the key word in there is that the IMF sent it out live to the central banks of several countries, certainly in Iraq. We're hearing it went live in Australia, Dubai, and a couple other Middle East countries as well, that it's live at their central bank. Now, whether or not they've pushed it out to their banking network in country, we still haven't heard anything on that yet. But the IMF has pushed it out. They've hit go from a global perspective. It has not, according to the intel, has not gone live here in the U.S., although we're hearing that over the last week, several insiders have begun cashing out their dinar at a contract rate, which is considerably higher than those rates that I just gave you. So the discouraging part about that is that if what we're hearing is accurate, that they're the key insiders, the elites, if I can put it that way, have already begun cashing out. We're hearing anywhere upwards of 10,000 people. Some reports have it at 40,000 people have already begun cashing out. But it's still kind of in the background. It hasn't gone out to the masses yet, and that's what's still waiting to happen. So, having said that, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what drives me nuts is hearing the word elite. Who are these people? Nobody's elite to me. Everybody's equal as far as I'm concerned.
Right, and that exact sentiment has shown up on a lot of the message boards and the message sites and the guru sites, saying that exact thing in various ways, and some eloquent and some not so eloquent. But you hit the very essence of it right there. You know, I thought we were treated equal over here. Well, you know, the reality is that there's going to be some insiders taking advantage of the situation. Now, you know, do I know any? No, I don't know anybody personally, but some of the people that get on the calls say that they know individuals personally that have done this, and there's even reports of them going back and double dipping. They'll cash out, go buy some more, and then go back and do it again. And so we're also starting to hear reports that Jack Lew at the U.S. Treasury had kind of set them up for, you know, I'm probably getting into too much detail here, but had set them up for a fall in that he recognizes that that's dishonest. And so some of the words, because of that, it was basically a dragnet, and it caught a lot of bad people double dipping. And, you know, the rumor is that we may start seeing key-level people in high-level positions starting to resign because they got caught in the dragnet. So all that's unconfirmed. I can't go out and I can't say that I can prove that to you. That's just kind of conglomeration or rather a condensation of what we're hearing from the guru site. So just to boil it down to its essence, the IMF has pushed it out internationally. It's supposedly live in country in Iraq, also beginning to trickle out, going global with at least 7 to 9 other countries out there. And we're still waiting for it to be activated in the U.S. by the U.S. Treasury. So feel free to call me or contact me, anybody, for further updates, because I'm kind of watching this closely, but that's what I've got for you tonight.
Okay, thank you. And anyone who wants to put me on their payroll after they cash out, just give me a shout. I'll be working for Brad when this is all over. Okay, so thank you for that. Let's hope that it's like the real deal this time around, this year around. Dave, are you on the call?
I am.
I wanted to have you give out your website and let everybody know what you've been working on. I know you sent me some documents and reached out this week, but you and I have not personally talked, so if you want to just give everybody an update on the documents and the things that you worked on this week, and your website again, please.
The website is www.spousalDiscriminationCoverup.com. I've been putting some updated information on my website so people can get a gist of exactly what's going on and all the criminal activity that has these lawless agencies have compiled together against my wife and I, and the evidence is right there in black and white that cannot be refuted. No one can deny it. Both the state and the feds has all the information, and everybody has stood back, obstruction of justice, stood by, and let all these perpetrators take advantage of us illegally without standing up and protecting our rights as they took an oath of office to do. I found some case law I was reviewing across the land. It was trying to remember the name of the link. Randy, I don't have it off the top of my head, but there's case law out there of specifics where judges who had no jurisdiction, it had to do with jurisdiction. If there was no jurisdiction, the case must be dismissed. In this case, I got a judge who's not a judge. It's proven he's not a judge. He has no jurisdiction. He's a legal judge, committed fraud on the court. So I'm kind of studying up on that. And Randy, whoever you said you had in Iowa or wherever you had in 18 and 42, I don't know if you've introduced me to this gentleman, but I'm still looking for what my next step is.
Okay.
Let me tell you what else I followed up on this week, actually 2 days ago. Maybe it was 3 days ago. I contacted the Denver DA's office to the senior investigator who originally took my complaint and interviewed my wife on July 2nd, 2012. When I met with him, when we did meet, he walks in the interview room, says, "How you doing, Dave?" I look up. He's the gaming officer that I knew when I worked up there in the casinos, and he knew exactly who I was and what the issues were. I was following up with him since the DA had my case for 2 months, didn't do anything with it, handed it over to the FBI, who held it for 9 months, 9.5 months, wouldn't do anything with it. I contacted the DA's office again a couple days ago, and the lady I spoke to was the co-interviewer of my wife and I told her I want to file a criminal complaint. I have new uncovered evidence of fraud and forgery committed by the respondent's attorney, committed by the Colorado Division of Civil Rights, committed by DOR, all on record, proven that this is all fraud committed under color of law. She asked me to go ahead and send her the updated information. I also asked her what was the story with the FBI. She says she didn't have any idea. She thought they was handling it all. I also contacted the FBI's office again to say I want to file an official complaint on Agent Kimberly Milka, and also with the FBI Denver office for not responding by opening my complaint, interviewing me 4 times, having about 20 emails back and forth between us, acknowledging there was committed felonies involved, asked me to follow up, and instead of going through with processing, figuring out what's going on, they turn around and put me on state evidence, a picture of my driver's license on a case of an alleged forged oath of office by a gentleman up in Minnesota and here in Denver. So it's been a long circle of bullshit. And the FBI told me we'll have somebody get back to me. That was, again, 3 days ago. I have not had response from either one of these agencies at this point. So that's where I'm at.
All right. Thank you for that update. Anybody want to say anything to Dave about his particular case? Has anybody looked at his website? Any comments, questions? All right. And, Dave, I wanted to let you know I'm busy until Christmas Eve.
That's fine. No worries.
And Christmas night. I have both of those free. So if you're free those nights, I know they're kind of strange nights to do anything, but please give me a shout. Do we have Ross on the line? He may be back in jail. We don't know. Hang on just one moment, you guys. Does anybody else want to bring up their case? Keith, did you want to give us an update on yours?
Yeah, the only thing I have is, like I said, I'm doing the interrogatory and the discovery to have them produce the evidence that I need before I go into the Title 42, because they have the evidence and they can produce it and find it quicker than I can. So that's basically what I'm doing right now.
Okay. All right. I know you're wanting to work on a 42. Dave's wanting to work on a 42. So I think we're all ready to powwow here and start to write these out. So this week, again, the 24th and 25th, I know they're weird nights, but I happen to not be, I won't be doing anything these nights this year. I realize the whole world gets together, but my schedule is a little bit mixed up this year. So if you want to talk, maybe do a three-way with me and Dave on that particular night, reach out, okay? And we'll try to set something up. Anybody else want to bring their case up?
Say, Randy?
Yes.
Chris here in Las Vegas. I got a couple of things I might update you with that might be of interest. One, we were at the court today on Fred's case. It was pretty not much of note, except they postponed it for 2 months to the next hearing. It was in and out. He has an attorney named Turco that showed up for him. He was not there. We had about 6 or 7 of us there in the court, and we introduced ourselves to Turco afterwards. He was appreciative, gave me a card, and we let him know if there was anything we could do to assist. We were aware of the case and the ramifications and what that actually happened, and that we were glad to assist if we could. So that was pretty non-eventful. But we were at a city commission's ours or Clark County commission's ours meeting Tuesday, and a group, in fact, there's a YouTube of a woman by the name of, Daphne Lee, D-A-P-H-N-E Lee, that they kept her the first time we were there for 8 hours. They let her speak finally, and she read her petition for sending back the 2 offensive, highly offensive clauses, the incarceration without any probable cause for any pretense, and detainment, and being able to send you to foreign prisons. I think it's 521 and 522, but I'm not positive on those numbers of the National Defense Authorization Act of this 2012, which, of course, goes back to 10/23/58, United States Code, the Strong Third National Defense Authorization Act of 1961. So we did get those passed, that they would not enforce those here with Metro. However, the unfortunate conundrum is they likely would not be enforced by Metro exclusively anyway. It would be FEMA, ICE, or Obama Police, Stasi, or SS, whatever you want to term them, that would actually do the enforcement actions here in the Las Vegas area if they were to come to fruition. So it was a circumstantial victory. Whether it has any force or effect of any consequence whatsoever is rather dubious, but it was still a substantial voice of the people and prevailing on the city board of commissioners or county board of commissioners and having some success. However, also during that session, there's been multiple attempts by the sheriff here in this town, Doug Gillespie, to try to force through a tax increase under the pretense of more cops. And the last time he got a tax increase for more cops, he got one. They used them to give themselves raises instead of hiring more cops, and they still have budgeted funds on the books 4 more cops, but they haven't exercised those. And they did a smoke and mirrors showing of stats and data and charts and all sorts of magic number tricks, which I did notice the fellow who put on the display named Jeremy, that he had done a fabulous job of dazzling with the magic numbers, and they had been very effective because I was numb after watching his magic number tricks. And so I pretty much, I again called out the sheriff and the Board of Commissions czars for their failing to oversee the sheriff, as the language of the contract means he's subject to the Board of Commissioners, and they hadn't done a very good job, and that he had been malfeasant and mismanaged, in that they were engaging in waste, fraud, and abuse of power under their jurisdiction, abusing the rights of people, and murdering, robbing, raping, pillaging at will, including Eric Scott, Stanley Gibson, and noted that I had personal first-hand knowledge of an incident where, under a mere traffic enforcement ruse, they pulled over a 78-year-old man and utilized 3 motorcycles, 15 patrol units, 4 highway patrol cruisers, over 25 men and women, and a helicopter for a traffic infringement when the fellow was being totally peaceful, having his hands peacefully on the steering wheel in a non-threatening manner of his private conveyance, and not aggressing because they had no probable cause other than a mere traffic infraction. That's not a felony offense. When they broke out the window with a fire extinguisher when there was no fire present, and maced the 78-year-old man, set glass shards into his eyes, and he was recovering from a heart bypass operation, thereby posing an imminent threat to his life. And that that was an abuse of the people's trust, and it was a waste of their money and theft of their money under the pretenses of traffic enforcement, and then incorporating that type of a militaristic force and apparently gang attacking him, that we felt like they were violating their oath and affirmation to the people and abusing their rights and violating their public duty oaths, and really deserved to be terminated over it. And so after that was over, I walked out to get a drink of water, and there was a entourage. The sheriff was giving his post-failure interview to the press and making his case without any questioning or examination to whatever he was claiming to the press and the media. And then off to the side, there was another couple of uniformed officers. One of them seemed to be higher ranking in a couple of suits. And I walked over past them to get water. Well, the individual that was apparently running the little entourage there, a rather stocky and burr-headed supervisory fellow for Metro, pointed directly in my direction and claimed, "I want that guy." And, I casually went back over and got my drink, come back. He had relocated up against the wall. He'd been standing against the windows to the outside, located to the wall on the inside against the auditorium where the meeting was being held. And as I passed, I tried to cast a glance to see who the threatening officer's name was, and I took note of it, but I couldn't quite make it out because he was glaring at me then, too. Well, then the next morning he appeared on TV, and I was able to clearly see that his name was Davison. He had 3 stars on his collar, so he's either an undersheriff or some sort of a commander or something within the department, and he was showing an extreme and retaliatory class-based animus and hatred for people who were speaking out against the sheriff. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for that addition. There's a case of a girl. I don't know if anybody on the call has heard of her, but I was on a Freedomizer radio last night with Proof Negative. I'm not sure if any of you know him, but I brought up a case of a girl named Amanda Billy Rock, and she's on Facebook. She put together a video, and she seems to be a very nice person, clean cut, you name it, and just an all-around good person. And she got pulled over, and she was written up on 5 different charges and spent the night in jail. And I was reading some comments about just a few people that were responding to it. And one of the comments I thought was just right on the nose. It said people simply do not know what the law is. Every arrest is presumed unlawful, and it is up to the officer to justify it. And you can look that up in any book on torts. And, Chris, you might have some good recommendations on torts, but it says if you look up false arrest or false imprisonment, it will say that the accuser only has to prove they were arrested. The officer must prove it was justified. So he ends it with, let's give this girl her legal presumption that the officer was wrong and she was right. So he said, most people don't know what the law is, and they definitely don't know how to defend themselves, and that's our weakness, which, of course, is why we have this call and there's so many others. So if anybody wants to look up her case, she's actually asking everyone to call the prosecutor and get him to drop all 5 of the charges. I know one of them was she has prescription medication. It was in the vehicle. She showed the cop her prescription documents, and he still wrote her up for something to do with those drugs illegally. So, again, it's Amanda Billy Rock, BILLYROCK. If you just do a search for her, there's some information on freecoast.org, and then you can just do a search for that and her name. And, of course, her website on Facebook is Amanda Billy Rock. So
that's very interesting, Randy. I frequently listen to Freedomizer and contribute content. In fact, they had 2 really good attorneys today talking together about vaccine rights, one from the West Coast and one from the Eastern Coast. One's name is Alan Phillips, and the other's name was, started with a G, I should be able to tell you, Greg Glazer. And they were speaking constitutional law when I spoke about natural rights to them. And because they were being very constitutional, very knowledgeable and competent with what they were speaking, I had to applaud them for their principles, morals, scruples, professional ethics, and the fact that they were actually talking about constitutional law and rights, natural rights, and understood what they were. So when they do well, we should probably applaud them, and I really did. But there's some pretty good content on that network occasionally, and there's Rose Colombo, and that's on freedomizerradio.com. I don't think that's me, darling.
We'll see here in a second. Go ahead, keep going.
But you're precisely right in your observation about the Billy Rock case is all those arrests are rebuttable presumptions, and they have to prove that the crime was committed. And in many cases, this system is so corrupt, as everyone knows what a kangaroo court is, where there's only the appearance of separate parties, when the whole flippin' collective court is a unified force that's trying to prey upon the people they drag in there because they're all barred, licensed esquires or officers of the corrupt court and are all being paid to be there, whereby the only party that's not being paid is the person that's being accused and or witnesses they may bring.
There you have it. So in this particular case, she's asking everyone to call the prosecutor. So, we all got to band together, and I really hope that everybody takes the time. He got a not so nice phone call from me last night. So, and I did give him my name and phone number. Say that again?
This is Keith.
Yes.
Yes. In my case, I was arrested and put in jail for traveling with a suspended license and failure to register my vehicle. Now, when I looked up and I'm charged criminally with that. At least they say it's traffic criminal, which I can't find no criminal procedure for a traffic criminal. But anyway, when I looked up in the penal code, the charges that they're charging with, it says in the penal code that it's a non-criminal offense. So if it's a non-criminal offense, why was I put in jail, and why am I in a criminal case?
That's a good question, and they're not answering it.
Well, that's what I'm going to find out with the discovery and the interrogatory.
See, that's particularly what these ancient Roman civil law style courts, these private foreign corporate courts are, is they mix the forms of jurisdiction to create a smoke screen so it's difficult for the people to perceive what's going on. And frankly, in these courts, all you're operating is judge-made law, whatever they can pull out of their posteriors and blow smoke at you and get you to believe, statutes and codes and procedures. They don't have anything to do with actual law. They're all fictions of law, and they're commercial courts operating for private profits. So the only way to get out of that is to appeal to a court of law, a court of record in the federal jurisdictions, because you won't find one in the states, because the states habitually abuse the rights of the people that live within them.
Hey, Chris, this is Brad. Can I ask you a question?
Well, of course, you're awfully muffled, though, for some reason.
Oh, well, let me try to fix that. My question is, you said the only thing you could do is take it to a federal level. I mean, could you also not go on the offensive and come back with a counterclaim against them, and then invoke under the court of record, invoke common law jurisdiction and attack them that way?
Well, absolutely. That's generally what your private civil rights suits are under 1983, although they frequently will have criminal complaints that you can you have to bring those separately from your 1983 suit, but your 1983 suit can either prove the criminality or the criminality suits can prove the 1983 suit. They can work either way. They can be mutually complementary or mutually exclusive. It really makes no particular matter. It's just whatever's best for your tactical position of making your case and proving it on a court of record. But none of these are courts of records. They'll claim they're courts of records. They'll claim they're court of record, but the court of record they are only business records. And you have to know that and realize that if you don't preserve the record yourself by taking either your own court reporter or someone to transcribe, a notary can do that for you, or you could also, in some cases, you can record. I'm gonna step off here for a minute and listen in, because my dinner just came. Okay?
I don't know what just happened. Chris, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here, but I'm leaving now.
Okay, no worries. And Ross, are you on the line yet? Last call for Ross. Okay. He very well. This was the gentleman that I actually sent the email out about tonight. He has a awesome story, and I'm going to say if he's not on this call, he may very well be back in jail.
You might have someone try to get him a call, Randy.
Yeah, I've been texting him and sending him some messages. I'm not reaching him yet. So we actually do have another guest up. Do we have Grinderfest on?
Yes, ma'am.
We do. Awesome. Did you want to go ahead and tell us an update? First, there are some new people on the call this week, so if you want to just kind of tell everybody a brief summary of your case, what's going on, and then what the update is.
This summer I decided to try to pursue traveling with no commercial driver's license. The car that my dealer told me had no front license plate, which caused me to be pulled over. So I attempted to not surrender my commercial driver's license from Washington State to the sheriff at Kitsap County, and subsequently was threatened with arrest. I had him call his supervisor, who subsequently threatened me with arrest for not handing over that commercial driver's license. So I'm in a 2-passenger Corvette that's not being used for commercial anything. So this caused me to get a suspension, though. However, I did not appear for court. I just wrote refuse for cause, no contract on that citation and sent it in. That's supposed to kill it and stop everything. I've done that a number of times on my citations. This one here, they decided that they were going to do away with my driver's license. Well, something probably comes up contract of that I'll obey this or submit to that when you apply for a state license. However, they don't explain a number of things to you in this instance. Subsequently, I'm pulled over for going a few miles an hour over the speed limit by a state patrol officer, and I am driving around apparently on a suspended commercial driver's license. However, I have no commercial activity whatsoever. I'm just going about my business, going to the store, taking care of my parents, these types of things. Well, back in court, initially now, after filing my affidavit of status as an actual living being rather than the corporation that they're pursuing, they didn't identify that for a couple of times. My first arraignment, the junior prosecutor abandoned the court. Yet, then the judge tried to address him, and she looked and said, "He's gone." Well, he left the court. I saw the looks on his face when he was reading my paperwork, and probably when I was up speaking at the bar, he read the rest of everything and abandoned the court. And when she mentioned that he was gone, I turned around, and there was a man sitting in his place who ended up being a public defender. I didn't request that they assign to me right there on the spot. He told me, without reading any of my filings as a living being rather than a corporation, he advised me that, and the prosecution wanted a $5,000 bond. All I could think of immediately was, these people aren't going by the law. I may end up in jail. My word is my bond. I don't pay $5,000 for anything. I will appear. But this was after talking to that attorney who advised me, yes, I will go to jail and get contempt if I don't do this. And I asked him, I go, who is that judge in there? Is that judge a banker or a judge? And that's when he got mad because he knew what I was saying. And what I did is I just went along with the program. I actually want to see this court process through and see how it works, win or lose. However, though, I feel confident about this next one. Now, the judge refused. They haven't proven jurisdiction yet. They're still after my birth certificate. So they're addressing me as my living being now. They want my living being to come address my trust. So probably what I'll do is have them discharge that, make that a test first. And if they want to still be illegal, well, I'm citing Supreme Court cases that address licenses in general and the unconstitutionality and the limiting effect, and in some cases they even cite the evil effects and negative effects of having a license in this society. When you really start looking at your Declaration of Independence and your Constitution, and in Article 6 of this Constitution, the police powers are prohibited from infringing upon that which is said. Is some of the wording that they failed to adhere to. In the Constitution, you should be having your inalienable rights protected, is what the point of that is. You're born with these rights. You should be able to traverse this planet, at least this continent, by whatever means necessary. Do you need a license? Now, do you need a license to get married? Well, why? I thought I was getting married before God. You start looking at these concepts of a license overall. Well, my judge denied my motions, and we're going to trial on the 6th. Now, the judge's reasoning was she sided with a Washington state law, a court case in Spokane, and it's this female, a pretty well-known case that tried to battle it. Now, they're citing the RCWs and a few other choice Supreme Court cases they think are relevant to that. However, I would beg to differ on those two cases they're citing. Long story short, she cited a Washington state case over my Supreme Court cases, and I named 3 of them. And I was willing to get right into the case and discuss the particulars, and she declined. And so now I'm going to trial. They're addressing me as a living being, large caps, small caps, but the court is against my living trust. Now, probably my angle is, the one thing, there's an RCW off to the side. I don't have it in front of me. I had to rush to get to this call. That actually in black and white in two places says that the exemptions are traveling, whereas the commercial side, driving is the word they use. So they're trying to deny this word terminology of driving. Overall, in general, they describe driving as driving. Well, the literal interpretation of driver is a coach driver or a paid. They mention 16-seater or more out on the highway for pay or for hire. Well, what their game might be is that when your car comes into this state, they keep the certificate of origin and they issue you a title. And this allows for the smoother transfer of this car from one place to another, yet the ownership lies within the state through the certificate of origin. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody. So what this, I think, really is doing is setting me up as the state owns the car that I paid for, then I have to get a license to drive that thing. However, it looks to me like I'm being set up as a state employee with no job description as well as no pay. Now, if this is the state's car, it seems to me that they should be paying for the maintenance and the payments of that vehicle. So you can say all these things, but bringing up the fact and proving what this is another thing. You know, they sent me a picture of my CDL Washington State driver's license. Now, on the back there should be the A, B, and C categories. Well, the only C I see on this one is for restricted lenses, and it's a commercial driver's license, and I want to know where I'm getting paid. This will be my main argument. Where's my pay? However, they didn't issue me a bill of attainder. Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution directly says these bills of attainder are unconstitutional, as well as the fact that it's statute, but inhibitive of my right to pursue life, liberty, and how are you going to pursue life and liberty if you can't transport yourself around in the 20th century with, you need a license to get married, you need a license for a business, you need a license for this, you need a license for that. I say the license is overall restrictive overall from the Supreme Court cases that I have come across. And, you know, you can start looking at the lower court's decisions, and you see plainly that they're in favor of the money-making operation that they're being decided on. And as of late, then you really start looking at who these court administrators are in our economy overall and see who their loyalty really is. For one thing, you've got the British accredited registry that they've taken an oath to, and that court system is supported by that, yet they're supposed to uphold our Constitution. Well, there might be a conflict of interest in the fact that also that our gold is no longer paying these judicial officers, it's the IMF. So these people are under contract with the International Monetary Fund, which is a foreign power, is it not? I'll just kind of leave it at that, Randy. That kind of covers my situation. My court date is January 6th.
Say, Randy?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, if I might, since the gentleman is up in Washington, probably the most knowledgeable guy about the RCW up there is Louis Ewing and Kurt Riggins. And Louis Ewing is the RCW code buster, and he knows that Washington Code. They've been to the State House, to the Capitol, and inspected the documents and stuff there, and they've got them nailed to the wall up there. He posts himself as a tribal lawyer, and I don't find him comfortable with my mindset because he uses a lot of four-letter deleted expletives and stuff in his conversations, and he's one that, I really don't care that he smokes pot, but, to make that a founding point of some of your conversations and use four-letter deleted expletives, I frequently have my granddaughter around, and it's not conducive to what I like to study. But he is an incredibly smart and learned individual in the laws, especially in the state of Washington. Additionally to his traveling situation and his points about the manufacturer's statement of origin or certificate of ownership or whatever they want to term it, rod-class.com has a writ of error quorum nobis with the state of North Carolina to the state attorney general, and he's got a pretty good case proceeding through the courts on precisely the same issues you're talking about, of the theft of the motor vehicle that occurs by the state when they criminally convert your lawful ownership to the state's ownership under the registration, whereby you, by registering or registration, you stratify your property in the name of the regis to corporate state. And that's what registration is all about, is to convert your private property to the state's interest so they can tax you for it. And he's exactly right in his assessments of the commercial operators and not being compensated for it, and the state not paying to maintain the taxes, license, and insurance on the vehicle they own and trying to convert it to your use. And that's a very sticky point, and they don't like to hear that sort of stuff. He's also talking about Rundle versus Delaware, where that corporation hasn't got a voice and can't speak to you unless you nail the judge to the bench and make them admit to being a live individual so that they're culpable and liable for their actions because of the dead corporate fiction speaking up there. They are delirious. They can't speak if they're dead corporate fictions and they're acting as a corporate agent. Then they are certainly, by Rundle versus Delaware, violating the statutes that they purport to operate under. But and it's a private foreign court. You're precisely right about that, for private profits. And let's see, there was one other thing. Oh, you want to know about Title 18, United States Code, Section 245, Part 2, Parenthetical E. That's the right to travel. That's a protected right. You can get that from a copy of those color of law violations from the top right-hand corner of FBI.gov website under color of law violations, and you'll get those printouts of those things there, and you'll find that that's precisely a protected right that we enjoy, and you are absolutely correct in your observations. However, the corporate state, as the Supreme Court has noted multiply, habitually abuses the rights of the people that live within, and they are doing so to you. And you're exactly right. There's a number of people that are fighting these issues around the nation. There's a couple on RBN, Clint Richards. Roger Sales is living in Argentina because he knows how corrupt it is here. Lots of things are going on, and you're doing exactly the right thing. Another guy you might like is Randy Kelton at Rule of Law Radio. He's in favor of filing complaints against the judges with the State Judiciary Committee or the Federal Bar or whoever they are under, and also against the prosecutors with the bars in those states, because the bar complaints and the judiciary complaints affect their insurability with risk management. And a couple of complaints like that on them for violating rights and risk management will cancel their insurance, and they won't be able to function in the position that they're enjoying. But those are the points that I can make for you that hopefully will be some help to you and point you in a possibly good direction. If you need any more information about Louis Ewing, I can certainly give him, but I'm pretty sure you can find him at rcwcodebusters.com or .org, or you can email him. He does provide paperwork to help you win your case, but he wants a pretty penny for it, and a little bit pricey, and source for me, he's difficult to do business with. But being that you're in Washington State, you and he might get along famously. So that's just something to suggest that may offer you some assistance in prosecuting the prosecutor for your case, or the pro se executioner.
Do you want to give the RTW one again? It's RTW.
Well, you can email him at rcwcodebuster@gmail.com or at yahoo.com, or he's got a multiple. Here's a phone number for they're on TalkShoe is one place they are, and that's the 1-724-444-7444, and use the ID number 120418, and that's Pro Se Winners, and that'll get you to his TalkShoe series, and you can listen to the ones he's had. He does charge a sign-up service if you want to go to his ultimateusers.com, but he's got a lot of good free information on his site that cites Washington RCW code and statutes and law, and he's beat him quite a few times, so it's certainly worth look at for you if you like.
Well, I'll give you something to look at right now. This is not what they cite, but it's close to it. It's RCW. This is for Washington State, 46.20.001. No person may drive a motor vehicle upon a highway in this state without first obtaining a valid driver's license issued to Washington residents under this chapter. Now, they take that overall in general. Now, let's go down here to the one that they hide. And the poor woman in Spokane that my prosecution is using, she did not use this little particular RCW here. I read her case. She cited, tried to battle. She was right. However, she failed to come up with RCW 46.25.051C. The term recreational vehicle shall include vehicles used exclusively for non-commercial purposes, which are primarily designed for recreational camping or travel.
Yes, they're private home effects, and they're not motor vehicles.
So
and
they leave the 4625.0051C out, where it actually off to the side, they sneakily set that off to the side and forget about that it's addressing travel and non-commercial purposes. There's a separation between commercial and non-commercial. Right there is the proof. So there's my reasonable doubt.
You're absolutely right, but you won't prevail in the state unless you take it to a federal court, likely. And the other thing I was going to tell you, only the Department of Transportation at the United States government has the authorization to pull a commercial driver's license. It has to be a hearing by the director of the Department of Transportation. I think it's Rayla Hood the last time I checked. But that's stuff that I've heard before, but I'm not as familiar with it off the top of my head to be able to give you sites and stuff like you are, because I'm not fighting against that particular battle. But I do recall that that's one of the things that you have to look at, is because the Department of Transportation regulates the state programs, and that's what Rod Class's case is because they're stealing all this money and doing all this licensure, and they're not paying anything. The money's not going to the state, it's going to private interests. So it's not benefiting the people, it's benefiting the private individuals that operate the programs instead, and they're actually stealing money from the federal government as well. So there's a myriad of different attack methodologies and points of contention that you can definitely access if you've got proper petitions, motions, pleadings, and paperwork, and you get to a court of competent jurisdiction in a federal court, which is not conflicted with the state's onerous obligations and relations.
So my interest is the jurisdiction. I'm curious now, how do they keep moving forward? They haven't addressed jurisdiction. Now, I'm telling them that I'm the living being, and they've at least acknowledged that, but they're still after my trust. So a piece of paper hurt a piece of paper. I don't dig that. How am I going to defend to somebody that wants to move forward with that?
I still suggest you want to look at Rod Class's writ of error forum novus at the rod-class.com site and his case against the DMV in Carolina.
Okay. Rod Class's DMV case, is that how it's listed?
Well, it says writ of error quorum nobis against the DMV in the state of North Carolina. He's got the whole thing on his I'm sure Randy can send you a link for it. And,
I'm familiar with Rod Class. I know how to get to him.
Okay.
Some of the ways I'm learning some of these things, dude.
Well, you're obviously very sharp because you know your stuff, and you know your stuff in your state, and that's the advantage you have that I don't know because I'm not in your state and not familiar with the RCW. I'm a little personally familiar, but not as intrinsically as you are because I don't have them attacking me. That's always a motivator for those who choose to fight.
Right. Well, I get the feeling that it's going to go to the next level. And the fact that they're trying to put somebody in jail and fine them to have a license to make them do that, I don't know what I'm missing that they're moving forward with. I've gone over there and every time I've showed up, I'm there by special appearance only, and I have no contract with the court. Did I fall into their jurisdiction somehow unknowingly?
Well, they presume jurisdiction, and unless you rebut the jurisdiction and preserve it on the record and have someone to witness and testify to the fact that you did preserve the jurisdiction and order a copy of the court's records, proceedings, the audio or videotape, whatever they have, pay them money for that when it's heard, then you preserve the error, the record, for your appeal. And your appeal goes to the federal court. You don't have to go to the state courts because they're all concluded, they're all admitted together. You don't have to pay all the fees, all those courts to get there. You just have to appeal on a writ of error.
Okay, now, if, okay, there's a lot of questions here. Well, I lost that thought. I guess I'm expelled. I'm extinguished on this. I've been reading Supreme Court laws all day, so.
Well, remember,
here's what I plan on doing with the jurisdiction. I'm attacking that now. I want to, now should I put this in writing, or can I just go in and say this? Or should I have it in writing and state, or should I enter it into record? I want to see everybody's oath of office, bond, malpractice insurance. I want the charter of the court to prove that it was actually a court in effect during the time of said alleged violation, and this would be for mandamus cor wanto possibly. And they need to authenticate and validate all licenses, permits, oaths of office, each member, judge, clerk, prosecutor.
You can certainly go ahead and do all that. That's a lot of work, and it's not bad because you're preserving from the record when you do put it on paper. The only petitions and pleadings and motions they'll accept are written in writing, blue ink on white paper, because if you speak in that court, they'll presume that everything you say is untrue, therefore they'll presume you're guilty of perjury. It's the most ludicrous. These are all private courts. It's all about
I don't understand somebody perjury for trying to authenticate everybody that's in the court. How can that be perjury?
It's not, but that's the delusional hallucinations that these black robe terrorists and the pro se executioners, these barred esquire attorneys of these private foreign courts do against the people to try to run roughshod on them. It's all smoke and mirrors. They're actors up there on stage pretending to be somebody at the court.
Well, if they're going to put me in jail, they better authenticate that they're somebody that has the authority to do that, with jurisdiction to do that, is my point. So I think I need to attack jurisdiction at that point when I show up. Well, I want to know, do I need to put that in writing as a point of record, or just go in and attack that verbally?
Well, they're not going to take your verbal things for sure. They probably won't read your pleadings. They generally will throw them in the trash can and claim that there's nothing before the court. They didn't see anything because it's not in their proper form and format and style and type. You're dealing with a bunch of criminals that operate a racketeering operation, and they portend it or proffer it to be some sort of lawful proceeding, but it's not. If it was a lawful proceeding, you would have been arraigned on probable cause, where a lawful judicial officer would have had a determination so the probable cause existed in the first place. Instead, they try to make you rush to make a plea and to sentence you. If you look under sentence under Black's law and see how many definitions there are, there's 2 pages at least of sentence, and when you look at make a plea, there's a good half a page of those. And it's a very, very complicated process, and it's all a big scam. It's an act, but they can lock you up. They got the guns and the tasers and all the big beefy marshals or private foreign mercenaries pretending to be marshals, but they really are private corporate actors, mercenaries. And when you're in that building, you're in a foreign zone. It's not American law that operates that building, and you're under surveillance and audio monitoring the whole time you're in there. And as long as you're in there, you're at risk of being seized on that foreign ship by the laws of Admiralty.
Right. Well, I had 2 people there filming the entire process the last session, and that's going to happen again. And so this woman's this Judge Paja is going to side with state law over Supreme Court law. Well, I think she's already violated my rights, has she not?
Sounds like it to me. You might want to have a third person with a surreptitious recording, so that if they try to seize the cameras, if they decide to do something to you to get rid of the evidence, make it disappear, to try to erase memories on the recorders or whatever else they can do. These are a bunch of scurrilous, low-life, lying, cheating dogs that'll do anything to do what they want to do. I mean, you're dealing with the worst dregs of human life in those places. Right. They have no morals, no scruples. They only have to give you the appearance of justice. They don't have to give you any real justice.
Well, I have to agree. That's all I can tell you. And here's what I'm up against, and I may lose, but my point is, my word, I don't know that they're going to be a point of record on from the clerk. Do they have somebody doing the minutes in the trial? Does that become public record?
Well, if they leave it in, but so many times the clerk of the court will redact, will tamper with the record of the court, if it was a true record, would be tampering with evidence. But since it's a mere business record, they can probably get away with it. But whenever they alter the testimony on the record, whether they do it electronically, editing, cut it out, change the words, twist what you say, leave things out, put things in, mischaracterize what you've said, they're tampering with evidence. And it's not a true representation of the court record. Therefore, it's altered, therefore it's moot, and it can't lie as evidence because it's been tainted, and therefore it's mere hearsay and not subject to being entered on the record of any court, in any true court, if you know how to object and challenge and support your objections with fact, law, and evidence to back it up. But that's exactly the facts.
Okay, well, I would think that just having my affidavit of status would make them not want to pursue me.
Well, it would if you were in a court of law, but you're not in a court of law. You're in a private fleecing machine.
Well, you know, it says right here, and they're doing it, it says, your affidiant further knows that pursuant to the Constitution, the affidiant cannot be compelled, manipulated, extorted, tricked, threatened, placed under duress, or coerced, or so affected under the color of law by any natural person, which, of course, they're not, who individually, in any capacity or an artificial person or agency or entity or officer of the party is waiving any of my rights, is basically what I'm saying to them.
Well, I can't argue with you when you're speaking law, but they don't speak law. They got another realm they operate in, and it's delusional hallucinations, and strictly it's the cupidic, which is greedy, and contumacious, which means they're operating with an extreme fast-paced retaliatory animus and prosecutorial hatred of you because you're a pro se litigant trying to get some kind of justice in the court system that's designed not to give you any justice, but just to get your money and steal from you and put you in jail if they have to get money from your birth bond. You're exactly right.
Well, they ran our last county prosecutor out of town because he was so crooked. That was Danny Clem. But they replaced him with Russ Haig, who is Danny Clem on steroids. All I can say is the good thing is I might have possibly, though they kind of all connect, our new state senator, first in the history of the state, is Jan Angel. I'm one of her delegates out of my district right here. And I helped get her elected, and it's our first Republican female senator in Washington State's history. So I made sure that I was there to watch the signing of that. Hopefully, she will be firm on the aspect that I think she is constitutional and does have high marks from the National Rifle Association. It seems to be the type of person that's interested in straightening things out. And that was our call at our last corrupted convention that took place here with the Republican Party, and they actually relieved the overseer of that enterprise. They relieved him of his duties because of the way the whole convention went down.
Sounds like you're doing good things. I've given you about all I can give you to try to assist you tonight, and you know I pray for you to have the best luck and to have some higher forces prevailing on your behalf when you go against these demon monsters you're facing, but you don't realize that you're going to war. That's what court is. It's supposed to be replacing the on-field of battle to a battle of wits. Only they're half-wits, and they don't use fair tactics. They use every dirty trick in the book, but you're not allowed to.
Just stay in honor and be polite and keep hammering constitutional law on them. And logic, I have good logic. So that's about all I have for you tonight, people. Appreciate the time, Randy. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm so glad you got on and shared that, because it gave Chris a chance to really hammer that home, because the people across this whole country are battling the same battle you are. I mean, we're all driving with that license that they tell us is commercial, and we know it's not. So, so thank you for sharing that. You're welcome to come on anytime. What were you going to say?
Randy, maybe I can, after the next session here on the 6th of January, I can call and let you know the results. All I can say is that there has to be people like me, and you know you're not going to have an easy battle when you go try to take these things on, because everybody's tuned in. They either don't know, don't care, or only living for their paycheck. And what you're going to hear is, tell it to the judge. Well, know that when you go listen to these people on the Internet that are telling you these truths and the way things really are, and you finally decide to act on it, you've just begun an uphill battle, and it's not going to end. You have to decide if your principles are going to take you, or you're going to back down. You might realize you've never been in court before in this formal capacity, and you've got people that are professionals at it, and they're liars to start with. You need to look longer. Don't just jump in. And hopefully you'll have people that are there to help advise you, as well as back you up and be there with you in court to help record the wrongs that they're doing. This way you have recourse. So,
awesome.
Thank you.
I know it's a sacrifice for you to get to us, and I super appreciate you reaching out to us. Have a great holiday. I wanted to tell everybody about a call that's going on right now, and because our first guest was not on, I saw him pop in about 35 minutes late, and he hopped off about 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to give everybody a phone number. I am totally not opposed to everybody getting on it, because it's on judicial corruption, and it's something that we all need to know about. And the phone number is 347-884-9499. 347-884-9499. I think this is where we're going to wrap our call tonight, because I want everybody to hop on that call in regards to judicial corruption. It's very important. There's a gentleman by the name of Steve Curry. He's on right now. He's speaking.
We don't need an access code?
Let me see. I'll let you know in a second here.
I have one question while you're getting that. You were talking about Title 18 section. What section is it as far as driver versus traveler?
Title 18. United States Code 245, Part 2, parenthetical E. That's it. Easy.
If you get the answer this evening, that's long.
And no, there is no access code.
Okay.
So everybody can flip over. This is what I want to say. Try to stay out of trouble, everybody. We're going to take a 2-week hiatus on our calls. We've got an incredible lineup when we come back. I want everybody to just try and stay under the radar screen and just enjoy life for the next couple weeks and get on as many calls as you can. Invite people out to ours 2 weeks from now, and it will be phenomenal. Knock people's socks off. Come back to our call with all the knowledge and wisdom that you got from everybody else's calls and from your own experiences, and share them here, because we do have quite an audience. So please bring it back to our calls and share it on here. If anybody has anything they want to talk about, pop me off some emails. I'll be working on the 42 course to get it finishing off the last interviews. And I will see you guys after the first part of the year. God bless everybody. Have a super couple weeks. Anybody that wants to talk about anything, just reach out to me and I'll get back to you. Okay?
And everyone have blessed pagan fertility feast days and Feast of Saturnalia upcoming. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You got it. All right. Let's get that dinar to pay out, Brad.
Absolutely. What was that phone number again? 347?
Let me pull that back up. Hold on just a second.
784
784
9499, I think.
99.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's let me say it again. 347-884-9499.
Okay, and just the code?
There is no code.
Okay, awesome.
Dial
Thank
in.
you.
You got it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Randy. Bye-bye.
You bet. Bye-bye. Bye.